Hi, I'm Eric from RockyMountainATVMC.com, and today we're doing a ride review and a comparison of two great bikes. We've got the 2018 KTM 500 EXC-F and the 2018 Husqvarna 501 FE. We're going to take these bikes out. Well, first we're going to explain a little bit about them. We're going to talk about how they're similar, how they're different. Then we're going to take them out, we're going to ride them, and then we're going to come back and we're give you our thoughts. You know, both these bikes, I think that's going to be a challenge because both these bikes are very, very similar. They're both born in Austria. The motors are identical. The exhaust is very similar. A lot of the components are very similar. We've got EFI, both of them are fuel injected, both of them are electric start, both of them are wide ratio 6 speeds. They've got the toolless air filter access. A lot of things are very, very similar on these bikes, but there are some subtle differences, and you know, we're curious what those differences are and how they affect the bike and how it rides and how it handles. All right, so let's get into it. So differences. You got the Husky over here. It's got a carbon composite subframe. KTM has a traditional aluminum subframe. Both have steel frames, so it's just the subframes that are different. The seat height on the Husky, they're claiming to be about 3/8 of an inch taller than the KTM. Some people that are a little vertically challenged, that might be a big deal. Moving up to the handlebars. So we've got little differences like Husky has went to Pro Taper, where the KTM is still sticking with the neck and bars. Both great bars, oversized, so the 1.1 inch. And then the hydraulic controls, this is kind of interesting. So the Husky has all Magura hydraulic controls. So that includes your hydraulic clutch, that includes your brake systems. Everything's Magura on this bike. Over here we have the Brembo. So the clutch is a Brembo, the brakes are Brembos. So kind of an interesting difference there. Moving on down to the wheels. The wheels are even different. So on the Husky, you have the DID Dirt Stars for rims, and over on the KTM, you have the Giant brand hoops. Both of them very durable. They've been around a long time. Very similar. Something that's different on the Husky is it has a machine triple clamp, and the KTM has a cast. They both have the same 22mm offset, so you know, essentially this should handle the same. Now moving on to suspension, that's probably the biggest difference of these two bikes. It's very obvious, of course. You've got the WP linkage system on the Husky as opposed to the PDS, the Explorer PDS over here on the KTM. Both of these rear suspension systems have their advantages and their disadvantages. You know, there's plenty of articles out there talking about the differences. Both are definitely good in different areas. So onto the fork, same 48mm Explorer fork. The only difference is the Husky has the adjustable preload caps, and you know, you can actually get them for the KTM. Pretty simple to install, but still, it's definitely a difference. And then rounding this out, okay, you've got the KTM that comes in at 240 pounds without fuel. The Husky is a bit huskier. It's 244 and some change. So very similar there. And then to price, you've got the Husky is about $100 more at retail than the KTM. With all that being said, we're going to gear up, get out there on these bikes. I've got Chance with me. We're gonna go out, we're gonna swap back and forth. We're gonna get some good footage. We're gonna see if we can tell a difference, see if these differences are enough that they're, you know, are they meaningful? And we'll chat about it, and then we'll see if we can come to a conclusion. All right, here we are. We've been riding these bikes for a little while. Traded back and forth a couple times. And right off the bat, you know, you guys can see that we got hero dirt today. It is absolutely perfect for riding, a little rough for filming, so we'll try to keep the cameras clean. But So these tires, both these bikes come stock with the TKC Continental dual sport tires, and they are maybe not the best tire today, but we want to get a feel for how these things feel, you know, as they roll off the showroom floor. And so we're taking one for the team today. So, and man, these things feel so light. They feel great, even with all the dual sport stuff on them. So we're just kind of playing here in the trees. You get a pretty good feel for the flat corners and the berm corners and the sand and how the two bikes compare. You know, we went through this section a couple times, and both of us are kind of having an issue stalling in the panic stop situations, but that just might be your rider error. All right, so back on the KTM. All right, let's talk about suspension a little bit. Both of these bikes are amazingly capable for street legal bikes. Definitely soft for, I don't know, I'm about 200 pounds. I feel like I definitely want some more spring for me, and that's how they're set up. The crazy part is these bikes just stay so straight. I mean, it's actually a little crazy. No steering stabilizer. We haven't even really set the sag. So let's go to the forks. So forks on the fast stuff, they always, seems like they always work pretty good on the fast stuff. A little chop sometimes, but for me, I gotta have it pretty comfortable up there on my wrists. So it's when you're getting in the beat up, the rocky, because they're definitely staying up in their stroke. Other than super hard braking, they'll dive a little bit. But once again, that's all spring related. That's to be expected. But the crazy thing is when you set the front end down, it doesn't slap. There's no slapping down on the front, which is very nice. These are pretty big G outs. Woo! That was a good one. I'm kind of a fan of the Linkage. I've spent years and years and years on PDS bikes, you know, the no linkage, and they work great. I mean, especially like when you're jumping logs or something like that, you don't have the linkage hanging down. But it feels like you've got, on the Linkage bike, it feels like there's a bigger range of motion. Where the PDS feels like it works really good up to a certain point, and then it's not as plush, it's not as controlled. Oh yeah, little supercross whoops on our dual sports. We're always trying to decide what bike's better, when the real question is what bike's better for you, for what type of riding you do. And this bike's crazy because it's so versatile that you can do whatever kind of riding you want. I mean, you could be dual sporting, you could be desert racing, firm it up a little bit, go works racing. You know, it's got a wide ratio tranny, which is actually, that wide ratio transmission is one of my favorite parts. It lets you go to a granny first, so you're barely crawling along in the nasty. Yet you got a 100-mile-an-hour top speed. It's just crazy how versatile it is. And that's one of the parts I really love about the big KTMs, is that, because we've been known to do a lot of different kinds of riding, you know, weekend to weekend, and back to how this bike feels. The dirt's changed on us a little bit here. My gosh, the suspension is so active underneath you. You know, I'll miss a line right there, hit all those rocks, it's no big deal. But crazy. These big bikes are made for that crap. Just tractable, barely running. Lugging along. Oh yeah, up in the clouds. So we know a lot of guys are going to use these bikes as light adventure bikes, and I can't see any reason why they wouldn't be absolutely excellent for that. You know, on some of these bigger 2-tracks, I mean, it's awesome. It's still plush enough to soak up the little stuff, but yet it's definitely soaking the bigger G outs. My kind of dual sport. Perfect temperature, perfect dirt, no dust. So we'll get her up to speed here a little bit. So that's cruising about 58, 60. And it's remarkably comfortable. So Chancellor, these guys have heard me talk for a long time.
Yep.
About what I've thought about everything about this bike, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. You know, so for the type of riding that this 501 and 500, where you're going to be and what type of riding you're going to be doing, what do you think? What do you think about these two bikes?
With the amount of power these bikes have, I'm going to find myself on more wide open areas. I'm going to find myself on two track. I don't think I'll find myself on gnarly terrain as much, and so I think the Linkage would be the way to go on the Husky.
Yeah, I noticed a little bit when we were out there, you know, and we're talking about suspension because really that's the big difference between these two bikes is it seems to be is suspension, and everything else feels really similar, but it's just kind of how the bike is reacting, and it's a very subtle difference. But for some reason, that Linkage, it feels like the suspension is very active underneath and keeping me on the ground. So it's not like I'm bouncing around a little bit, even in the big whoops. It feels like that I'm hooked up with the ground, in contact with the ground, where it feels like the PDS, the KTM, it hops around a little bit, and I don't have that one with the earth type feeling.
Yeah. When we got into some gnarly terrain where we weren't hitting whoops, we were just going over rocks and logs, both bikes did great. I couldn't tell a difference between the linkage and non-linkage. So
Yep, that's what I'm coming down to. They're both excellent bikes. I don't think you could go wrong with either one. Me knowing what I know about the two bikes and actually spending time on them, I might lean towards a Husky, but I definitely would be happy with the KTM. Absolutely.
I completely agree.
All right.
They're awesome bikes.
Well, there you have it. Just a quick little wrap. The KTM 2018 500 EXC and the Husky FE 501 2018 as well. Initial ride comparison. Great bikes. Stay tuned because we're going to do some different things with these bikes. We have we're going to probably do a trail build on both of them. You know, all around build really. So we can hit whatever we want to, you know, we can go do some desert racing. We can go hit the gnarly mountain single track. And then later on, stay tuned because I think we're going to build some light adventure bikes out of them. Maybe put some great big tanks on them, some light luggage, and actually go on some adventures. So perfect platform for both of these kind of things. Yeah, once again, RockyMountainATVMC.com. You can find all those accessories online. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like this kind of content. Okay, we'll catch you next time.